Hey guys, it's Saf here with another Raid Shadow Legends video, and in today's video I'm going to show you how you can farm Sand Devil 25 very quickly and farm some food at the same time. We're also going to look at the actual different stages of where you can farm food to see how much better or how much worse Sand Devil food farming is compared to say like Campaign, Dragon, and various different stages. Now in this video we are going to be talking about a little bit of speed tuning. We're going to be looking at the minimum speed thresholds to make this work, and it does contain some booking intricacies which could cause some problems, but we'll look at the alternatives for that. But before we get started, let's talk about the Sand Devil. Why should you be farming Sand Devil? Well, artifact ascension is a very important aspect of the game, especially once you start getting into the late to end game. It's not so much a big important thing if you're in the mid game. You've got other things you want to do. You're probably still doing your missions. You're probably still working through Doom Tower. You're probably still working on things like the higher stages of other dungeons. It is not until you start getting to end game where you really want to start min-maxing those builds, pushing things to the limits, trying to find 5% gains here or there. That is where artifact ascension comes in incredibly powerful. Now, it's not to say you should just ignore the dungeon until you are at that sort of end game. That's not quite the case, but it just means that your energy is better spent elsewhere than in Sand Devil. But once you start getting to that position, well, there is different reasons for you to farm it. So we can just see here, my most, probably my strongest built champion is probably my Constantine here, where you can see I'm getting an extra 20% attack, or I'm getting an extra 20% attack here. I've got pretty much a terrible roll here. We can have a look at other champions such as my Seeker here, that we've got a fully ascended boot, speed 12 extra speed on a boot is a lot. 20% extra damage, crit damage here on this piece is one of the craziest crit damage gloves I have on the account. Shame it's in the Resistor, this Resilience set, not in Savage. But you can gain an awful large amount of stats from Ascension if you do it correctly. That is why you do Artifact Ascension, because it helps you gain significant amounts of stats once you start pushing the boundaries of your builds. And you can only acquire it from completing the Sand Devil's Necropolis or some bonus events. There's a Dungeon Divers on right now where you can get some oil. They'll throw it in the events sometimes, but predominantly you will want to farm Sand Devil's Necropolis here. Now, in the immediate start, you're going to be focusing on Sand Devil 7. I'm probably going to be doing a separate video where I talk about the best options for farming this really quickly, because this is the best level for you to get the lesser oil. The process you will go through is you will acquire lesser oil, the first tier of the Artifact Ascension, to ascend your items to rank 1. If you then get a good Artifact Ascension stat, then you will roll it further. But sometimes you'll get boots and you'll roll flat HP, and you don't really want to waste any more oil on those. So the first task is finding the pieces that you actually want to fully ascend. Once you've done that, then of course you need to go to the higher and more challenging stages of Sand Devil to get your hands on the greater and, more importantly, the superior oil. And in terms of efficiency, 24 is the best place to get the greater oil, but 25 is the best place to get the superior oil. It works out something like you get 1 extra reward of superior oil on the 25 on an average refill, just the way that it kind of works out. It's not that much different. If you can't run 25, 24 is fine to run, but there is a bit of an efficiency gain to run 25 for this top stage. Now, you've probably seen the video that I did where I created a Sand Devil 24 team, and I basically used Godseeker, Aneri, and Ninja. In this team, the way that this would work, you would really need to make sure Ninja doesn't die and Godseeker Aneri doesn't die. And the way that this runs, we can rush run it here quickly because we have the team automatically set up. We would go through here, and the idea is we want to keep both of them alive. The death comes in first, and we use Godseeker Aneri's passive and her revive to reset the Ninja, and then Ninja is primarily the damage dealer. Now, this kind of works perfectly on 24, but you can see we're not got any food, we haven't got any advantage, we haven't got anything else here. And to be honest, it's just a case of having to keep 2 champions alive. Now, the stats you need for Sand Devil 24 and 25 are quite high. You need a lot of accuracy. We are talking around about 500 plus accuracy. So trying to build fast champions, because you need about 270 speed or 265 speed, that also stay alive, that also can land their debuffs and effects, is quite tricky. Now, I'm pretty sure I have broken my Ninja in this build here. He's normally a little bit safer than this, but you can see the concept here. You basically follow this exact path and cycle where Godseeker Aneri revives herself, she revives Ninja, Ninja does his A2 because Godseeker resets his abilities, and then you're just going to burn and place HP burn. But obviously, if Ninja dies, this will fail. So the key thing is making sure both teams survive. This is the old way that I showed how to do it, and it's pretty quick. You can see it's getting it done in about 1 minute, but this only worked on 24 because Ninja is weak on 25. So the likelihood on 25 is he's going to die more often than not. So we needed to find a solution where Ninja could die and it wouldn't break the team. And also, if we can optimize it, we'd want to. Crouching Grandpa, who is one of our moderators in Discord, was talking about a team that was being running at 25 where you would use Ninja with food, but it had some fail rates. So I kind of said, hey, show me the team. What are you running? Let's see if we can figure out a speed tune that could break it apart so that we could basically make sure that it was 100%. So I was looking for the speed breakpoints to ensure that that team would work. But the advantage with the team is we can actually run it with food. So we're using the same champions here. We're using Godseeker Neri and we're using Ninja in this example. There are alternatives to Ninja, but nobody really does it as quickly as Ninja, unfortunately. And you can see I've got 3 food champions here, so I can actually put food in and make this work. So how does this differ? Well, firstly, there are booking requirements to take into consideration here. We need to have Godseeker Neri with a very, very specific book. So you can see I've got 2 Godseeker Neris. I'm using another one for this test. You need to have a minimum of 1 book on this passive, a minimum. You can go higher, but you need to have at least 1 on this passive. But you can no longer have more than 1 book on this A3. Now, some people have got runs where you use a 5-turn revive on death. I know Mother Sibel works. I know there are other variants of this team that use this team. It's a very high possibility as well. And just to put a clarification, that someone else came up with this type of comp. The speed tune that I'm looking at, I don't think anyone has run with a 6-turn cooldown. I've seen people run with a 5-turn. What's unique about this is we're running at a 6-turn cooldown. Ideally, you'd want this booked, but you don't need to. You don't need the A1 booked either. The key thing is minimum 1, maximum 1. The A3 is going to be the difficult one. If you get some unlucky books, then you're kind of qualified out from this specific speed tune. Ninja is basically the same. However, you kind of want to build him quite squishy. It doesn't matter if he dies. The only thing is there are minimum speeds to take into account for both champions, which we will talk about. The food champion is just any other food. What we are using the food champions for as well is to gain some bonus speed on this Godseeker Neri. But the main thing to point out is the booking. Minimum on the passive of 1, maximum of 1 on the A3. So I'll show you the run here. So we're going to basically come in again. Aneri's going to open with the A1. Everyone should die here. Then we basically are going to come in with a revive. And Ninja does an A2. At this point, Ninja has done his job. We don't need Ninja to do anything else. His only job is to A2. Now, the only thing about Ninja is he is weak affinity. So your run time will be variable in the sense that if he weak hits a lot, it's going to take a lot longer. If he weak hits less, it's going to take a lot less. What I'm probably going to do in a future video, once the sets go live, is actually run this exact same team, but put Ninja in Affinity Breaker, because he doesn't actually need to be in that much gear. He just needs enough accuracy and the minimum speed, and then he can be whatever. You don't need him to be tanky. You just need him to basically be in those numbers. You could, if you wanted to, build damage into him, but it's rather a waste of time because of the boss's passive here, where you basically have damage reduction if he's not under debuffs. He's only ever going to be under 1 debuff, so the damage is going to be reduced by like 90%. It's barely worth building any damage on Ninja. You just want to make sure he lands his A2. What we're actually able to do is if Ninja does die, we're able to actually run a lot quicker because there are less champions taking turns. The other thing to take into account, if you don't have an Acrisia, this might be the best team that you can build for the upcoming turn-based tournaments. I know that Sand Devil is going to be one of those dungeons that are going to be in that turn-based tournaments. We don't know the full details. All we know is it suggests the highest stage with the least amount of turn. This would work because essentially you've only got 1 champion taking a turn all the time. You can see we're basically keeping things pretty comfortable. The only challenge with this team is you have to keep the Godseeker Neri alive. If she dies, the run fails. If she stays alive, then you've got a good team. The crits will what determines whether you stay alive. The critical hits are the nasty ones. If you get crit back to back, it can be a bit scary. And trying to build the speeds, as you'll see, is actually quite a tough build. As long as she stays alive, we're getting through this most difficult dungeon of this area. This is the highest stage, stage 25, and we're using food to farm at the same time. It will be variable. Ninja is weak affinity. That's why I want to test the new Affinity Breaker set to see if the increase from 20% to 50% actually makes a massive difference or not, because at 50% it's much better. I think with the Affinity Breaker set, it's all going to be about if you're one hit wonder skill, then Affinity Breaker might be okay. But you can see there 2 minute 50 for stage 25 full auto with food. I haven't really tested averages. I've run it about 10 to 15 times. It has been 100% so far. So let's take a look at the math, explain how this works in detail so that you understand the minimum speed thresholds, and then we'll look at the builds one more time, and then we'll just run it again and go through the details. We're also at this point also going to look at the various different stages for gaining XP in non-campaign. We're going to have a look at how Sand Devil compares to something like Dragon, Spider, Ice Golem. So in this Excel spreadsheet here, I've basically kind of created a mini sort of turn meter calculator. It's not very good for a user-friendly. You need to know what you're doing. I probably won't give a copy to this Google Sheet because I think it's too confusing for a user to use it. I'm going to basically give you the minimums that you need from this from my own research. But if someone wants to DM me in Discord to actually try and get access to it, then you can have a go at it. But I'm not going to put this in the video because it's just too complicated to explain how to use it. The user interface for this Google Sheet is not good enough for a public release yet. But I can show you the concept of what it's showing. So we've basically got the speeds of the Sand Devils, 270 speed at stage 25. It's a very, very, very fast boss. And we've got Godseeker and Neri here at some crazy numbers as well, and Ninja at some various different numbers here. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a minimum speed setup here so I can show you how it all works. So the minimum speeds you're going to need to be able to hit here is a 296 Neri once she is in rotation, and a minimum 222 speed Ninja. Now Ninja can be faster, but don't go too fast with Ninja because his A1 can mess things up a little bit. And obviously you don't want to build him tanky because you want him to die. So how does the rotation work? Well, the first thing is we need to always be faster than the boss at base speed. So we need to be a minimum of 271 speed for Neri to go first. So you can make up this 296 speed with the mastery, because you've got 3 food champions that are always going to be dead. You can gain a plus 24 speed from there. So you don't actually need to be 296 speed. You can be basically a minimum of 272 speed to make this work. You can go faster than that if you've got a build that's like 273 speed, 274 speed. That's absolutely fine. You can go a bit over that, but obviously you're going to need to build her defensive. So you're not exactly going to have luxury to go super fast. So the reason why we're going at specifically 272 speed in this setup is we end up in a 1-to-1 ratio with the boss regardless of the speed debuff. In other speeds, the speed debuff creates problems for us, which reduces our amount of healing. So you can see here the way that it's going to work is we're building up the turn meter. Neri is going to take a turn before the boss. She A1s. Then the Sand Devil is going to A3. It's going to kill both Ninja and Neri. So we reset the turn meter. When you get revived with Revive on Death, you start with 0 turn meter. So when Neri gets reset back to 0, she's then going to go fast enough because she's got now 4 dead allies. You'll need a maximum of 3 to get the maximum of that mastery. So she is now faster than the boss. So she gets to just before the boss takes a turn. You can see the boss here is at around about 94% turn meter. It's about 5% left to go. She's going to use her A3, revive the Ninja, and then give that Ninja 50% turn meter and reset his abilities, which means Ninja is then going to come in between the turn. The boss is still asleep at this point. As long as you haven't hit the boss 7 times, the boss stays asleep for 2 turns after he uses the A3. Ninja comes in, uses his A2. That is all we need him to do. A2 is placing and activating burn 3 times. That's his only job. All he needs to do is A2. The rest of the abilities doesn't matter because by the time he gets round to his A2 again, the boss is awake and you can only debuff when the boss is asleep. So all we need him to do is A2 once. Neri is going to A2 here as well to heal, which is important because when the boss is asleep, any healing will reduce the maximum HP loss. So this A2 going on a 1-1 in the right pattern with the cooldown at 3 turn is very handy. If you can get that A2 booked, this will help with a lot of your healing issues because you're probably going to fully restore your max HP every single rotation here. The boss is still asleep at this point because you take neither War Master on either champion. You do not build any extra sources of damage. There's no Phantom Touch. It is just the debuff from Ninja in sort of defense and support masteries. Ninja doesn't necessarily need support mastery, defense masteries, but you don't want to build any more damage. The Sand Devil is asleep here. Then Aneri is going to do an A1 here. Now we're just in a normal rotation. Ninja's going to do his A3 because he's still going fast enough. Then the Sand Devil will do the first attack that isn't A3, which is A2, and it will defeat Ninja, hopefully. You want Ninja to die at this point. Ninja's turn meter is gone, and it just leaves Aneri remaining. So you can see Aneri is still going at a 1-to-1 ratio. The boss takes a turn, Aneri takes a turn. But at this point, when the boss does an A1, then you can take a debuff, which reduces Aneri's speed by 30%. So we need to take that into account. So that is why we're running at this speed, because even at 296, this debuff does nothing. Now, if we were to say we never get the debuff, then it doesn't matter because she's still going 1-to-1. If we say we always never get the debuff, it doesn't matter. In previous iterations of this team, specifically the 5-turn cooldown, if Ninja lived and you didn't get a speed debuff, it would push Aneri into a different speed rotation to the boss and it would fail. In this rotation, the speed debuff, whether it applies or not, is irrelevant. We've got to a breakpoint where it doesn't matter. Then we basically go through here. Aneri is going to keep doing her abilities. It doesn't really matter what she's doing at this point. And then the boss is going to come in again with an A3 and kill Aneri, reset, and we repeat the process. And you repeat the process over and over and over again until the boss dies. All we want Ninja to do is do A2 and die, and then Aneri just needs to stay alive. In other speed comps, specifically my 24, whenever you got the speed debuff, what would end up happening is the boss would take 2 turns between one of Aneri's turns with the debuff, which means Aneri essentially loses an extra heal. It increases her effective HP requirements up quite a lot. You can mitigate that with things like Survival Instinct, the mastery that gives you turn meter when you drop below a certain threshold, lots of different things like that. You can mitigate the crit rate a little bit, but the goal is 1-to-1 gives you an extra heal, which gets you a lot more EHP. So those are the minimum speeds. Ninja needs to be 222 minimum, and Aneri needs to be 271. So long as you're there, then you can basically book her to 6-turn cooldown with a minimum of 1 on the passive, and you will be in a perfect rotation. Once you hit those, then we need to go into the survivability. So let's just have a quick look in terms of food farming. How efficient and how good is Sand Devil for food farming? So I basically got a couple of different example stages here we can look at as different comparisons. Now, some people in comments might say, oh, I can do it quicker, I can do it slower. I'm just using this as an example for just some different combos. So obviously we've got the 3 main stages that people tend to farm in campaign. We've got 12-3 Brutal, 12-6 Brutal, and 12-6 Nightmare. Obviously the main difference is the reason why you'd run 12-6 Nightmare. The defenses of the enemies are significantly lower on stage 6 for some reason, and 12-3 Brutal you tend to run because the shields sell for more silver, so it's a little bit more silver efficient. Now we can see quite clearly that XP per energy, the campaign stages are way better for campaign energy, so we're not really going to include those in our comparison. We're just going to use it as a sort of a reference point. Then we can have a look at something like Ice Golem 5 Hard. I know that some creators were soloing that with Artak. We've got Ice Golem 25, Dragon 20, 24, 25. I've also got 2 different times for Dragon 25 because when we were doing this on stream, some people were basically suggesting you could do it really quickly. Bit of a shout out to our live streams. There's loads of you guys come and hang out now. We talk about lots of different things. A lot of this was theorized in the live stream, so I'll be live tonight around about 7:30 p.m. UK time. So if you want to come hang out, we do talk about lots of things. If you have any questions or you want some advice on something, we do a bit of a casual coaching, different things going on just on stream. It's a pretty cool time to hang out. Tonight, we've got to do a fair bit of Hydra. I've got 3 keys to you, so we'll be talking about that. Then I've got Spider 20. Some people suggest you can solo with food Spider 20. And then, of course, Sand Devil 24 and 25. So I've mapped out all the energy requirements. I've put in some estimated times in seconds of how long it takes to complete the run. I've then suggested how many champions we can have. Obviously, campaign, you can have a maximum of 4, dungeons 5. And then I've specified how many of those slots are designated for food, because the way that XP works is you get 1 lump sum of XP and it's divided equally amongst all champions in the team, whether they're max level or not. So I've collected the base experience that you get for completing each stage, which is before any XP boost. Now, incidentally, what we discovered is the XP gains after stage 20, they don't really change. The XP you gain at stage 20 is the same XP you gain at stage 10 hard. in terms of champion XP. So it doesn't really matter in terms of the volume. You don't get more experience the harder the stage is when it comes to the dungeons. We doubled these numbers because we're going to have an XP boost. I haven't included the Forge Pass in this because it's not always happening. So it's extra, but not really for this kind of assessment. It's on top. And then we've divided it by the number of champions in the team. And then we're going to work out how many actually we get. So you can see here, I've taken, for Ice Golem 5 hard, we get 13,822. I've doubled that and then divided it amongst 5 because each individual champion gets 5.5k experience. Then we can work out, based on the amount of time it takes and the amount of energy it takes, what XP per energy we get and what XP per second we get for each individual dungeon. So quite clearly then, I've put some color bars here. We can see that Ice Golem is the worst place to do food farming. It takes the longest and it costs and it rewards the least. You're getting the least amount of XP per second and the least amount of XP per energy. Dragon 20 is the leader at 361 XP per energy. So it's actually the third best place. Spider 20 is probably the best. Here, looking at this, it gives you the same amount of XP as Sand Devil, which is more than Dragon. I don't really know the mechanics of soloing Spider 20 with food. That's a whole nother topic. I'm just doing it as an example. But it turns out it's better than sort of Dragon 25. It's better than Ice Golem, 333. Now, considering there are no benefits to really going super fast at the moment in Sand Devil, because up until now there's been no tournaments, there is kind of value in having a faster team in Dragon if you need to complete the tournaments or you're competing or whatever. Whereas in Sand Devil, essentially, most people are either going to be running Chronum solo or they're going to be running Ninja, Aniri. There are some teams out there that you run maximum HP nukers if you want, but I think what you end up having is a team that by default has space for food. So if we can make it work with food, then it makes sense to. Whereas Dragon, you could always have the argument that, to be honest, I'd rather run the team in 30 seconds than actually run with food. So how does that translate in terms of total food per energy? Well, with Sand Devil in the team that I've got for stage 25, we obviously have 3 spaces for food, not 4 that you might have in a solo Dragon team. So that does affect the amount of total XP per energy you're getting for all of your food champions. You can see Sand Devil's around about 999. It's about 1,000, whereas Dragon 20 would be 1,400 because essentially one extra champion is being leveled at the same time. But the TLDR of this is it's a very good place to farm food in campaign. Is it anywhere near the campaign stages? No. It's about 1/3 of what you would get in campaign. But if you are forced or want to do Sand Devil 25, then you might as well put food in there to get more efficiency out of your energy. You're always going to get the oil if you succeed, so you might as well get experience at the same time because those spots are free. So that is the kind of the TLDR here. Ice Golem, terrible place. Dragon is probably the best. Spider and Sand Devil have the best overall individual base XP, but it depends on whether you can solo them. If you can solo Spider 20 with food, it is the best dungeon to do so based on my initial analysis here. So let's just take a quick look at the builds then that I've got in here. I've got Godseeker Aniri. It is quite a tricky build to do. I'm not saying this is very easy, but there are ways to mitigate it. I've got her running at 272 speed with 53.7k HP and 4,600 defense. Now you do, in any of these builds, need to build quite a defensive-based Godseeker Aniri. Having a Defiant set is way better than an Immortal set. Regeneration Define is the highest EHP you could possibly get, effective HP. It will help mitigate a lot more health and defense requirements if you have this Defiant, because you get minus 15% damage from his AoE attacks. One thing I would definitely say here is having a minimum of 4,500 defense, even if the optimizer suggests you to have more HP, is often better for Sand Devil, because more defense mitigates the amount of HP destruction that you have. In normal scenarios, you'd want to balance your defense and HP on an effective HP formula because there's a diminishing returns on defense, in the sense that adding more HP would give you overall more defensiveness. But where there's a situation where you need to heal per turn and the boss is taking maximum HP off you, being able to reduce the maximum HP by lowering the individual hit is more valuable than having more of a health pool that you can basically absorb more damage. Because essentially the more damage you actually take, the more you lose HP, which means actually that lowers your regen. It's a bit of a backwards way of thinking about it, but I would suggest a minimum of 4,500 defense is the way to go, and then leverage as much HP after that fact. Obviously, you can see I've got a speed blessing here to try and help with the speed. I haven't got any awakening or ascending on these chests, and there's areas for improvement. You can see the ring here, I've only got a sort of reasonably mid-roll defense with a high roll HP. That's the way that that's gone. I've got a pretty rubbish amulet because really all I need here is HP, or I need defense with flat. Like the accuracy and the resistance is not helping me here. You don't need any accuracy or resistance on Godseeker. And this banner, I've got a low roll defense, but a double roll speed. Ideally, I'd try and get more speed on the banner so that I could make the build easier. We've gone with Defiant. My Defiant gear is not the best. You can see I've got a pretty average glove. We've got at least some nice rolls, but we've got a wasted flat stat here. The chest, resistance is a wasted roll. Accuracy is a wasted roll. It's only got a 1 speed roll. There's no defense percentage on it. The chest has so much room for growth, but it's the only one that I've got with speed for HP percentage. The boots are pretty good. Again, we would prefer HP over crit rate, but it's not the end of the world. The shield, we prefer HP percentage here if we could get it. So there's room for growth. You can see it's not like I've min-maxed this to an nth degree. The helmet, even more. All I've got is 17 speed. The rest of these stats are not helpful. There's no HP or defense percentage. It would help a lot. And again, we're just going speed here. We have got HP here. You can't roll defense. So this is probably as good as it's going to get outside of rolling the HP instead. In terms of masteries, I have gone for, surprisingly to most people, probably improved parry. Why? Because the critical hit is the problem. So yes, you can take consistency from this, but what will kill you is when you get critically hit. This reduces critical hit damage by 3% more, so it's a little bit better to go this route and sacrifice 75 defense. We definitely 100% want delay death, and you always want shadow heal because the boss will heal when he uses A2. So you'll get 6% free heal every time the boss A2. So definitely take shadow heal, definitely take delay death, that's 6% damage reduction. And then if you want, you can take retribution to help with the heal, but it's not really that important. I've then gone down the left-hand side. I haven't taken Cycle of Magic. That will break your team. Do not run that. This is very important. Spirit Haste. When the 3 food dies, you get up to 24 speed. I've just taken more HP. So obviously there's room for growth, room for glyphs. And as I said, minimum 1 on the passive, maximum 1 on Rise to Glory here on the A3 revive. If I was to get a blessing, Miracle Heal could be an option, or Survival Instinct to try and help mitigate and bring the speeds down. We could have I could basically try and save myself some speed because I could build it up. But you still need that to go first. You still need a minimum 271. So it's not like there's a lot of room for growth. But it could be, looked at, especially if you got to 6-star, then obviously you're going to get more speed. It's a shame there's no area bonuses for speed, right? That would be very helpful here. But that is the build for Aniri. The ninja one, to be honest, you just need to hit the accuracy, right? You just need 525 accuracy and 222 speed. The rest of these stats do not matter. There is no point building damage. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to build resistance. You're not going to build tankiness. You want him to die. All his job is to revive an A2 and then die. That is his job. That's all he needs to do. I've obviously gone down for the Eagle Eye to help with the accuracy requirements. I've gone with, again, Shadow Heal, but that was I'm using him in 24 as well as 25. So that's something to take into account. Don't really need that. Cycle of Magic you can take. I've got him built as a boss killer for other areas as well. He's not just exclusively for farming this particular area. Now, by now, you're probably all wondering, it's been 30 minutes. Why you keep talking? I don't have a ninja. What am I going to do? There are alternatives to this team, but they are slow. The reason why Ninja is so dominant is because he activates the burns. So you could run Artak if you want, but by the time he gets around to his activation, it's probably not going to be very good because you're trading 3 activations for 1 activation. You can do it here. So far I've run him twice here. Like I've just run him here and he's basically weak hit twice in a row. Let's see if he avoids it. Right, we've got the burn on now. So you can see he's going to be able to activate the burn. So he is going to get 1 activation, but by now I was already had the boss to like near half HP. So he's not really a great option for it. It's kind of like the same thing with Walking Tomb Dren. The only thing with Walking Tomb Dren is you can't resist, but you still, can weak hit. I would think the problem with Walking Tomb Dren as well is he's going to be very difficult to let him die. So he's going to stay alive a lot more, which does create problems with various different things. It doesn't matter if they stay alive, but it just makes it a lot slower because they're going to take activations. He's going to run across the map. But you can see Artak here. He'll get you through it as an overnight farm, probably. The average run, we're talking 8 minutes, I'd have thought. I'm going to let this run through now. We'll see how long it actually took. He's in a bit of average build here. He's basically just in enough accuracy. We'll see how long it takes. We can just see here that, we got to 2 minute 50. And here he got double or triple crit in a row. And Artak was not quite fast enough as well. I think I messed up his speed tune. He was only about 218 speed. I should be watching my own videos. But you can see how slow it will be with Artak because of the affinity issue more often than not. Now, other champions that we can look at doing this with is someone like a Chronum. Obviously, a good sub for anyone who doesn't have Ninja. He will have affinity issues also. I don't really know whether you can drop a Neri for him because he does have this passive where every 4 turns, if Jamasa on the team, then he'll revive. So you could potentially just run him on his own with Jamasa in there and just try to keep him alive. The only thing I would say is trying to keep him alive with 500 accuracy requirements is very, very difficult. But I'm sure some people have done it and you could do it. He will have the ability at least to activate a bit similarly with Ninja. So if you haven't got Ninja, I think Chronum is probably your best case scenario. There are other options in terms of Supreme Galek. He will have this attacks 4 times at random. Each hit has a chance to do it, but he has to set up the burn first. So he has to basically place the burn, then do it. So at least he won't have affinity issues, but he will only get it on that A2 ability to be able to activate it. And you've only got it on a 2 turn. So you've only got 1 activation again. The 4 hits at random, I think, should be okay. It shouldn't be a problem that it's an extra hit here. So he is kind of a better option as well. Chronum or Supreme Galek could do it. You can just run a standard burner. Someone like a Mordecai is a very good budget option. He is sort of neutral affinity, but the key thing is he'll place the burn without actually needing to attack. So someone like a Mordecai could do the job as well. You're just not going to be able to activate the burn, so it's going to take you probably 4 to 5 minutes. So it really is, it's unfortunate that people don't have the ability to get Ninja anymore because he's still the best, but at least Chronum is kind of like the closest thing we can get. And you can probably do it as efficiently as Ninja. There are probably some other shout-outs in here as well. You could potentially look for a Sissia Flametongue. She's going to place the burn here on an attack for 3 turns, and then she can follow it up with an activation. So you could do her instead. She would be a better option than Artak if you had her, because at least this way you're going to be able to get that. And you could get some lucky with the attacking. I don't think this 3 hit at random matters either. I think she's okay to basically go there, into there, into there. It's not, as long as you don't wake the boss, it's okay. The key thing is do not wake the boss. So you can go with a Sissia Flametongue if you got her. I don't think it's as efficient as someone like as a Chronum, but maybe the neutral affinity activation and consistency is a little bit quicker. We'll have to see. I'm still building mine up, so I couldn't really test it for this video. Just a quick note as well, you do need an AI setup for this because you have to make her open with the A1. And then obviously you can leave everything default. But it's okay if you basically queue up some rank 3s or 4s here. You could basically set up an AI here, put them up with like multiple rank 4s and farm them. That's what I would recommend you do. Get your rank 4s built in campaign or other places, then bring them to Sand Devil and do like an overnight if you want to. And when you wake up, you've got 3 rank 4s ready to go. That's a good way of doing it. But there you go. That is a farmable stage 25 100%, so long as you can keep your Godseeker Neri alive, where Ninja doesn't need to stay alive. And I think this is probably the best option for the upcoming turn-based tournaments. That is going to include Sand Devil for those who don't have an Acrisia, because I think this is probably the least amount of turns required with all the different options we have available to us for the highest stage. But remember, you need to have a maximum of 1 book on the revive and a minimum on the passive. So booking is a bit of a challenge, so I got a bit lucky with mine. You may not with yours. It depends on how many Godseeker Neris you've got. There you go, guys. That is the end of the video. Thanks for watching. It was a long one. If you've liked this type of breakdown in detail, please give the video a thumbs up. And if you want to see more from this channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notifications. All of our videos will then come straight into your feed. I will be streaming at 7 p.m. tonight, 7:30 p.m., give or take. So come hang out if you want to. We'll talk about different things. We will be doing a bit of Hydra. We will probably be yelling at Kantra for not placing Provoke. But there you go. I'll catch you guys in the next video.